Okay, welcome back to the course of agriculture business planning. So now we are in the chapter 3. We are going to learn about problem formulation. Sorry, solution formulation. So in the previous chapter, we have learned about problem identified, and we continue with further chapter is problem formulation, and now it's time for us to formulate the solution. Okay, so now I want to share my screen, which is the material today. Okay, so this is solution formulation. I'm sorry, phrasing a little bit for my PowerPoint. Okay, let me start to share my screen. Okay, I think it's better now. Yeah. Okay. So let's discuss about solution formulation. Why do we have to formulate the solution? It seems like there are so many formulation in this course because we have to formulate a problem and then we have to formulate the solution as well. Why are this so important? Because if we don't formulate the solution, the possibility to solve the wrong problem is big, right? Because we don't want to waste our money and to waste our energy and waste to our uh, time to the things that is not so important. Okay, so what do we have in this topic? We are discussing about 4 types of problems. So in order to understand the appropriate solution that we are going to implement, we have to define the type of our problem. What is the type of problem? We are going to discuss it in the next slide. And then we also have the appropriateness of strategy to problem. Okay. So the appropriateness of strategy to problem also is a crucial thing because, yeah, as I mentioned before, if the solution is not appropriate with the problem, we waste so many things, right? And then formulate the solutions and the implement the solutions. How to implement it? Okay, let's start. For introduction at first. Decision makers must not only find effective solutions, but also understand the nature for formulation of the problem itself. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So when problems are not only ill-defined but also urgent, decision makers must act quickly. So that is why in this chapter we have to learn the types of problem and also we have to identify the nature of our problem, whether it is ill-defined or whether it is urgent. By being able to recognize this kind of problems, so the decision maker know which one need to be prioritized, right? So actually there are so many problems, but as a decision maker, we have to solve the one that is so urgent. And next, good decision making requires a good formulation. So this is the key. Why do we need to learn this chapter? Because good decision making requires a good formulation. Okay, we have to formulate the problem and the solution. A poor formulation may lead to a precise solution to the wrong problem. It means like we think that the solution is so cool, but it is not really the answer to our problem. Okay, sorry. So the next one is this one. The students learn the type of problems and adjust to the range of possible solutions and the kind of strategies appropriate for achieving those solutions. So the key here is the appropriateness. So we have to think about the appropriate solution to solve the problem. How to find the appropriate solution? Of course, we have to formulate the problem at first. So that is why we did it at the chapter 2 to formulate the problem. Oh, sorry. Mm. Now, because we want to formulate the solution, it means like we have to recognize the types of our problem. Before go to those 4 types, it has like some things to be noticed here, that the nature of problem determines the strategy appropriate for dealing with it, and that the use of a particular strategy makes certain assumptions about the nature of the problem to which it is applied. Okay, so let's see here. Highlight this line. The nature of problem determines the strategy appropriate for dealing with it. So all the problems have a different nature. So different problem, of course, have different approach to solve them. So that is why different problem will be approached with a different solution. Okay. So the use of a particular strategy makes certain assumptions. So a particular problem will be solved with particular solution. And it shows us that problem itself has the nature, right? And then problems and solutions are based on the perception of individuals. They are not objective conditions of the real world. They are subjective. For example, if something is a problem for you, it could be not a problem for me. Okay, but something that is maybe a problem for me, but that is not a problem for you. So that is the meaning of this statement. They're not objective, but they are subjective, depend on the people who face it. Some people will think that is a problem, and another people will think that is not a problem. But some problem really are a real problem for everyone, right? So problems may appear in different forms to different people. Okay, for example, let's take a look for learning style. You maybe have a learning problem, and me too, but the different form of our learning style is different. For example, if your learning style is just like you are a reader, but me, for example, I am the one who love the learning style just like participating. I mean, like when teacher explain, and I will listen them, but I don't really get the meaning. Compared with when teacher involve me to to their task. Just like I join the teacher research, I join the teacher project. By doing that, I can understand. So we have different learning style. You are a reader, and I am a participate. Participate. Get participating. Okay. So problems may appear. Our problem is the same, right? We have the learning style problem, but this learning style problem has a different thing. Depend on the subject, depend on me, and depend on you. So what is a critical problem for one person may appear unimportant, as the previous example in the previous slide. Problem is what somebody or something perceives as a problem, and without somebody or something to perceive it. So problem, let's say one problem, my problem. That is going to be my problem, whether you admit it as your problem or whether you don't admit it as your problem. But for me, that is a problem. So that is the meaning of this line. And then the perception of a problem implies a particular range of possible solutions to it appears intuitively obvious. Okay, particular range of possible solutions. So it has the range of possible solutions for each kind of problem that we face. A problem and its solution were defined as a different states of a single process. Okay, so problem and solution are a process. Okay, and they are different, of course. The problem comes before the solution, right? Solution comes after problem. So this one is interesting. Interested that with the latter being in some sense a more desirable state than the former. Of course, everyone loves solution. Solution comes after problem, right? So we all love the solution. We don't like the problem. Okay. So now we are digging the type of problem. The first type is simple problem. So the simple problem is problems which are completely understood and defined in terms of a specified number of calculable variables. So what is the keyword here you need to highlight? So in simple problems, we know the specified number of variables. Oh, before that, here, completely understood. What does it mean? That not because this is so simple, yeah, not because this is so simple, but because this is complete, that is completely understood. That is why we call it as a simple problem. And why are we so confident to say that that problem is completely understood? Because we can define the problem, and we are so sure to say that that problem is driven by specified of variables. Just like we really know the exactly things to make that problem happen. So we know the specified things to drive the problem to be happen. We call it as variables. So in simple problem, we have the specified number of calculable variables, just like we know that problem is driven by one variable, or we know that that problem is driven by two variables. Okay, that is why they say here defined in terms of specified number. Okay, and another one need to be highlighted here is the variable is calculable. The variables are calculable. We can calculate them. So that is why we say that is a simple problem. Okay, so the things that we need to highlight is in simple problem, we know the specified variables, a specified number of variables, whether it is one or whether it is two. We don't say like this problem is driven by two or more. If we say like two or more, we are not sure whether it is three, four, or five, because five also more than two, three also more than two. So we just say this problem is driven by two variables. And we can present those two variables, and those variables are calculable. I think you will understand it when we go to make it into example later. But let me complete for those type first. Okay, so it should be added that to denote a problem as simple need have no bearing on how easy or how difficult it is to implement a solution to that problem. It means that we don't have to define the simple problem as something that can be solved by implemented a simple solution. Yeah. Okay. Some simple problems also can be solved with complex solutions. So the simplicity in the problem doesn't show us that the solution to it also simple. That's not really. It depends on the variable. If the variable is not so complicated, that we can solve the problem in easier. I don't say like simple, the solution is simple, easy or not easy. Okay. Now let's go to second type. Sorry, still in the simple problem. The definition of a problem as a simple problem may or may not be appropriate in a given case. So, for example, we have one case, okay? We can say that this case is simple, or some people also will say this case is not simple. So again, it is subjective. For example, a planner may decide that a simple definition of his problem is somewhat academic in circumstances where implementation is expected to be relatively difficult. So the problem somewhat sounds so simple, right? But the solution for it is relatively difficult, relatively. The point is that a simple problem is one which wisely or unwisely is defined in terms that are finite and calculable. So to define a problem as a simple is wisely or unwisely based on the variables, whether it is specified and calculable. Okay. Next, the second type of problem is compound problem. So in these compound problems, let me read the definition first. Define in terms of an unspecified number of calculable variables. So you can directly feel the difference between simple problem and compound problem. It says here an unspecified number of calculable variables. What is the difference and what is the similarity between compound problems and simple problems? In simple problems, they are specified for the variables, for the number of the variables. But for the compound problems, the variables number are not specified, right? But their similarity is the variables are calculable. Okay, so again, to define compound problem maybe is a wise or unwise way to define them, like unspecified number of calculable variables. And then we get into type 3, that is complex problems. Define in terms of specified number of variables, but the variables are incalculable rather than calculable. So again, we see here, complex problems has specified of number variables. Which one do you prefer? Actually, I prefer the specified number of variables because I don't want to guess another variables. But as we don't like the problem, and the problem also don't like us to face a simple thing to solve them, right? But the variables are incalculable rather than calculable. So they have specified number of variables, but the variables are incalculable. Okay. And then for the type 4, it's called meta problems. So meta problems defined in terms of an unspecified number of incalculable variables. So highlighted here, it has unspecified number of variables, and those numbers are incalculable. Okay, so we have 4 types of problem. Let's see the example to make it is easier to understand. So I want to display one example here. Let's take the example about the poverty. Let's define the poverty according to the types of problem. Okay. So according to simple problems, the poverty means having an annual income of less than $3,000. So let's go back a little bit about the definition of simple problem. The simple problem defined as have like a specified number of calculable variables. In here, they define the poverty. They say that poverty is driven by these variables, and this variable is calculable. So they only say like poverty means having an annual income of less than $3,000. So only one, right? Only one variable, and this variable is calculable. What is the variable? The variable is the annual income. Okay, that is the variable. They don't say or another. They just say means having an annual income. And then this variable is calculable. How to calculate it? Yeah, of course, we all can calculate the money we earn, right? And here, the calculation for the annual income for poverty is less than $3,000. Okay, that is how a simple problem define the poverty. So let's go to the next level about how the compound problem define the poverty. So compound problem define poverty as having an annual income of less than $3,000, having an education below the level of grade 8, and living in substandard housing and or other characteristics. So this is the clear difference between compound problem and simple problem. In simple problem, they just say poverty means having an income less than $3,000. But in compound problem, they say and or other characteristics. It means that the variables are not, the number of variables are not specified here. It can be the poverty means driven by another characteristics, maybe another two or another three variables. They just say and or other characteristics, but in compound problem, those variables are calculable. For example, we can calculate the annual income. We also can make the calculation for education level. We also can do the calculation about living, about the housing standard. Okay, so I think it it comes more clear now. So the next level, let's define the poverty according to complex problem. So in the complex problem, they have a definition. Poverty means the inability to obtain for oneself the minimum basic necessities. So this complex problem has specified number of variables. Okay, they just say, what is the variable here? The variable is just one. What is that? They say, but for complex problem, the variable is not have to be one, but they have specified, they say two, three, but they don't say three or more, something like that. The poverty means just this one variable, the inability to obtain for oneself the minimum basic necessities of life. But in this complex problem, we cannot calculate the variable. How to calculate the inability to obtain for oneself? Can we say like the inability to obtain for oneself the minimum basic necessities of life? Necessities of life, how to calculate the necessities of life? It's different with if we want to calculate the education level. We know if they reach primary, junior, senior, bachelor's or master or PhD. But here we cannot calculate the variables. Next, let's define the meta problem, the poverty according to meta problem. In the meta problem, poverty means relative social deprivation. Okay, we cannot calculate it. How to calculate the social deprivation? We cannot make it into a number, something like that. So I think it is getting easier to define about the type of problem according to these four types. Simple problem, compound problem, complex problem, and meta problem. So of course, these are not the only definitions of poverty. Yeah, we also are allowed to define poverty by our own style, right? The point is that each of the above definition is possible and Each illustrates one of the 4 different types of problems identified earlier in the session. So, for example, if we want to formulate the solution for this kind of problems type, let's see if we define the poverty according to simple problems. They say the poverty means having an annual income of less than $3,000. It means that if we want to eradicate this poverty, so we have to increase the society's annual incomes, right? That one is the solution that we are going to implement, but is to increase the society annual income is simple? Of course not. Okay, so this is the previous things I say, like the simple problem doesn't mean uh, uh, have to be solved with simple solution. Okay, so let's go to the next example. If we define the poverty according to compound problem, it means that we have to solve this problem to find the solution in order to increase the income, to increase the education level, and to start to build a good housing standard. And then we have to define another factors, right? Because this one is compound problem. It means like the driver factors of poverty is not only for these 3 variables. Okay, so different solution, right? With the first simple problem. Because in this compound problem, we also include the annual income one, and also the education, and also the housing standard. But we have to find another driver factors. Okay, and then let's find a solution about to eradicate poverty if we define poverty as a complex problem. So poverty means the inability to obtain for oneself of the minimum basic necessities of life. So because this one is how to say that, incalculable. So it means like we have to make sure the solution is we have to make sure that that society have the ability to obtain for oneself of the minimum basic necessities. We have to make sure the society have adequate food, how to find that, and also we have to make sure the society can afford the good shelter. Okay, so now let's think about the solution for poverty. If we define the poverty according to meta problem, so that is about social deprivation. It means like we have to do something we have to create some ideas in order to solve this social deprivation. Okay, so different type has a different solution, because the solution so that is why you have to be clear about the driver factor of your problem. So you will apply the good solution, appropriate solution to solve your problem. Okay. So now let's talk about the appropriateness of a strategy to problem. Okay, strategy is solution, right? Strategy is like you will implement the solution. Of course, in order to implement the solution, you will have the strategy. So the use of a particular strategy makes certain assumptions have been mentioned in the previous slides. Planning was defined as deliberate intervention in some process. So in further slide, we are going to discuss about how to plan the things before implement the solutions. And this was held to imply the existence of a problem and a solution. Again and again, we have to make sure whether the problem existed is something that is uh, real happen, right? And the solution, whether the solution already existed or not. And then the nature of a problem may change over time. Yeah, the nature of the problem may change over time, such as poverty. Maybe in this year, the driver factor of poverty is the less the income is low, but next year maybe will be different. Another year maybe it will be different. So the problem keep changing. Okay, and then so actually this one is the explanation about the the problem type. But here we see in the second column and the third column, it has limits of analysis and limits of action. For example, if the type of problem is simple one, so our analysis limitation is for a complete understanding of all of the variables. So it has like a comprehensive analysis. So our analysis only only discuss the mentioned variables because they say there are specified number. So if the variables are two, so it means like our analysis limited only to those two variables. Limits of action is maximization or optimization. Okay. And the second type is compound problem. So our analysis is limited only to complete understanding of some of the variables. It means not all of the variables. And the third one is complex problem, because this complex problem is they have specified number of variables, but the variables is not calculable. So we only understand the variables partially. Okay. And then meta problem, we also have partial understanding of some of the variables. We already understand the some variables, and also the understanding of the particular variables also partial. So next, yeah, so actually this one is the explanation of the table. Like simple problems are solved by comprehensive analysis and plan optimization. And compound problems are solved by analyzing those parts of the problem which are amenable to analysis and planning to optimize those parts. Okay. And complex problems are solved by analyzing all the variables of the problem to the extent necessary to permit the planning of improvements in the situations as a whole. And meta problems are solved by analyzing some of the variables to the extent that some improvements can be planned in some parts of the problem. Okay, so now after we understand the nature of our problem and we can recognize the driver factor to our problem, of course, we understand the solution that we are going to implement, right? For example, in the poverty, if the variable is just the income less than $3,000 annually, it means like, okay, we have the solution to solve the poverty problem. So now, after we recognize the variables, It's time for us to formulate the solution. First, we have to consider about the visibility of the solution. Okay, which solution is most feasible? So in order to be able to make sure that the solution we are going to implement is feasible, we have to answer these questions. Can be implemented within an acceptable time frame? Okay, so I make an example like if you want to develop a rural space, a rural area where this area has a beautiful natural landscape, and you see the problem that the farmer household there is not really how to say that they are not their well-being is not good, just like their middle to low income. And you see the variable for that is they don't maximize their natural resources. So you suggest a solution. The solution is to create agrotourism in that area. Okay, so that is example of your solution. So is your idea feasible? So you have to ask this one and widening your question by using these questions. Can be implemented within an acceptable time frame. So you ask, can the agrotourism be implemented within an acceptable time frame? For example, you want to solve the problem in 2 or 3 years. So you can ask this question: can be the agrotourism ideas implemented within 3 years or 2 years? If it can, then maybe your solution is feasible. And then, is the agrotourism idea cost effective, reliable, and realistic? Okay, so you have to test that. And then third, will the agrotourism idea make resource usage more effective? For example, maybe that idea will empower the society, the farmer household, to have another small enterprise, small and middle enterprise to support your agrotourism. If maybe because if like that, maybe your idea is feasible. And is the risk come from creating agrotourism manageable or manageable? If it's manageable, maybe your idea is feasible. Oh, sorry, I escaped this question. Can the agrotourism adapt to conditions as they evolve and change? So, for example, if recently agrotourism has a particular program, and you have to be able to think about whether your idea still adaptable for next years in the future, right? And the last one is you have to consider whether the benefit of agrotourism is favored. Of course, if we talk about the benefit, it is about to increase the welfare of the society and also to increase the profit and uh, guarantee guarantee the increasing of society income, right? So that is the to make sure whether your solution is feasible or not. Next. Okay, so The next step about, actually not next step, but next important thing for you to consider before when you formulate the solutions. Which solution is favored by those and who will implement and use it? Okay, so according to this number two, which solution is favored by those who will implement and use it? So it means like you have uh, to make sure that the solution you offer is something that is favorable for people who will implement and who will use it. Maybe uh, the people who will implement it, maybe you or your company, or the farmers or the policymakers or uh, the entrepreneurs, something like that. And who are going to use it? The maybe the farmers, or maybe also, yeah, depend on your stakeholders. So why they say like which solution is favored? Because actually before like in this part, when you try to formulate the solution based on variables you have identified, it's common that we find some solutions that is look like so feasible. Okay, but we have to consider which solution is the most acceptable for implementers and for the users. Okay, and now here is the highlight. Acceptance by the people who will use and implement the solution is key to success. This is where the previous steps come into play. To users and implementers, a solution may seem theoretical, complex, or unrealistic. So that is why, like, for example, if in the number one, okay, in the number one, we think that there, for example, we found there are three feasible solutions. But when we want to implement that, those three solutions, maybe two or one of them have like something that is radical, complex, or unrealistic. So we have to consider which one. So another important things to determine the solution that we are going to implement is if the solution something you have to implement and you make sure that people will love them, because the success of your project depend on the acceptance from your users, and also from the team, the implementers, which is maybe your team or your company. And then implement the solutions, right? After we formulate the solution, so in the previous slides, we have formulated the solution, and also we have identified which solution is feasible, and then we have identified which solution is acceptable, right? So in this time, we finally know the specific solutions, and then we have to implement the solutions, because identify solution, are formulated is doesn't have any meaning if we don't implement them, right? So once the solution has been chosen, initial project planning begins and established. So it's time to implement the solution. So consider the things below before starting to implement the solution. So many things you need to consider before you implement the solution, right? So let's see one by one. The project manager. So here, the project manager is, it could be you, it can be you or another one, but make sure the project manager, but make sure you understand the people who, the qualification of the people who are going to be your project manager. Okay. So you have to decide it at first before you implement. They will be under, they have to be the one who understand the project, who will be who the someone that is expertise in your project, in your idea. So the second one is, who else needs to be involved to implement the solution? Okay, the implementers, who are going to be the implementers of your ideas. It could be entrepreneurs, it could be the farmers, it could be the policymakers, or it could be the governments. Yeah, you have to elaborate them and you have to specify them. Okay. And when the project will start, you have to give the real time and also when to start it. And the key milestones. What is the key milestones of this project? Okay. It will help you to have the best foundation for you to keep going in doing your project. And then what actions need to be taken before implementing the solution? Okay, what actions need to be taken before implementing the solution? Maybe you need to do like focus group discussion. Maybe you need to make sure the legality of your project. So you have to consider them in the beginning. And then what actions need to be taken during the implementing of the solution? And so, for example, if your project has to be completed within 2 years, so it means you have to be able to identify all activities within 24 months. Okay, so the last one is, why are these actions necessary? So it's quite the same with the key milestones. And why are these actions necessary? You keep reminding yourself and you keep reminding your partner that this project is something that is a big, it has like a noble purpose, something that to solve the problem. So this will help you to keep to remind you that you have to keep going to achieve the goal of this project, because it is a solution for a big problem and it will help people to get a better life, right? Okay, so next, let's talk about the exercise. So you have to formulate the solution based on the problem mentioned at chapter 2. Okay, so you can go back to the chapter 2 and you start to formulate the problem, to formulate the solution. So how to formulate the solution? So of course you have to define your problem based on 4 types of problem. Okay, define them first. And each definition of problem based on those types, try to generate the solution. Okay, so maybe we'll have some solutions, and then go to further step is to formulate the solution. In order to formulate the solution, you have to identify which solution is more feasible. How to make sure that your solution is feasible? You just follow the question I mentioned in the previous slide. Okay. And then not stop here. Actually, you can continue to implement the solutions. You have to explain how to implement your solution. How to do that? You have to answer the question about implementation of solution. Just like who are going to be your manager, and who are going to be your implementers, and who are going to be what is the key milestone, and another one. Okay, so this is the reference of this topic. You actually can go to this by yourself, and you can dig more, and you can read more, and you also can read the handout I put. And the guidance to do your assignment is you can work, or not you can, you have to work on team. So your team is based on your previous group, okay? You write down your explanation in Microsoft Word, and your paper should be not more than 10 pages and not less than 10 pages as well. And your font type is Times New Roman, and the size is 12. And the space line is 1.15. And page layout is 4333. Okay. The margin, right? Left, up, bottom, and right. 4333. Okay. And everyone submit the same file with the team. For example, if your group have like three people, so the 3 students like A, B, C, yours A, B, and C have to submit one file. So not the team leader to submit the file, but each of you, all the team member should submit the file the same with another one. Okay. So here, each question elaborated with at least 2 paragraphs. So for example, if you want to identify the feasibility of your solution, you have to apply many questions, right? So each question you have to elaborate them in at least 2 paragraphs. Cannot be 1 paragraph. More than 2 paragraphs is allowed, but you have to remember that your paper not more than 10 pages. Okay. And how I will put mark on your job is your originality is 30%, your creativity is 30%, you have to obey the rule. I will give you 10%, and if you submit it on time, you will get 10%. Your highest mark is 80. So I think that's for now. So you guys can go to let me explain again about the chapter 2, because you formulate the problem in the chapter 2, right? And from that chapter 2, you have to formulate the solution. Okay. So I remember in chapter 2, you guys are given or were given three problems, right? So this one. So you have discussed with your team the group 1, group 2, and group 3. Okay. So for example, some of team group choose the second problem, and you will discuss it again, and you have to formulate the solution. Sorry, can you see that? Okay, here. Okay. So wait. Okay. For example, some of your team choose group 2, choose this problem, food loss. And in chapter 3 exercise, you have to formulate the solution for formulated problem in this group 2. Okay. And some of you choose exercise 3, right? Okay. Some of you choose exercise 3, and you have to formulate the solution based on problem formulated in the case 3 here. So this is about to increase the value added of yellow pumpkin, and then you formulate the solution to help the farmer to solve the problem. The problem is they cannot find another new innovation or new products to increase their income. Yeah, so you have to formulate the solution according to them. And this group 1, you have to formulate the problem is about to increase the farmer household income by creating agrotourism, for example, for the formulated problem, and you create you formulate the solution. Okay. So that is for your assignment. I hope you don't find it is difficult to understand them, because you have learned to formulate the problem. I think it's going to be easier to formulate the solution, and also make sure that you really identify the variable as a driver factor for the problem, because a wrong variables will lead you to a wrong solution, right? So that's for all. Thank you very much.